Congress right now. The pending competition law, which is hopefully this time, after more than 20 years of languishing in Congress, will finally come out. And the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, which will address a lot of the trade facilitation concerns. Administratively, there are non-legislative measures for trade facilitation as well. The National Single Window, the Philippine National Trade Repository, an AEO program for customs so that, again, most firms that actually do business right don't really have to go through the whole processes, the whole cumbersome processes. And then looking and listing and rationalizing the other trade regulatory government agencies' requirements, various permits and clearances that have to be obtained. Also, we need to have a stronger enabling environment for small and medium enterprises. A little commercial here, my column today in the Inquirer speaks on that topic, so I will not say much more on this. And of course, a lot of people lament how local governments sometimes make it very difficult to invest in the local areas. And this is the problem when we want more of those investments, as I said, outside of Metro Manila and the surrounding provinces. Public investments include filling our infrastructure gap in energy, in transport, ICT, as well as the soft infrastructure like schools, research and development facilities, and the like. Strengthened health and education programs, and climate change and disaster resilience requires public investments as well. Well, there's an AEC, as an economic community game plan, actually already formulated by the Interagency Committee for the AEC. I will not read these out anymore. These are some of the elements that have now been consolidated into the AEC game plan for the country. Finally, I'd just like to say that the road ahead provides even more challenges and opportunities given new generation trade agreements like the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ramon del Rosario already mentioned these earlier. The RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and the Free Trade Area for Asia and the Pacific, something that is being discussed in the APEC these days. And so with all of that, I think there's a lot that the homework we need to do, but that homework has to be done if we're going to cash in on the opportunities still before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Habito. Please take your seat for the panel discussion on keys to unlock investment. To start the panel, may we call again Mr. Henry Schumacher, External Affairs Vice President, European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be the moderator for this. The topic is keys to unlock investment, and we need plenty of investment. One big key is sitting down there in the audience. Lia de Lima is a huge key in order to make investments possible in this country. I have besides Dr. Habito, 3 sectors, basically: investment strategy by Dr. De Ocampo, investment promotion by Yusek Manalo, and then look at Mindanao and Bangsamoro, Mr. Dominguez. I have only 10 minutes for everything. So can you be very short? Maybe we start with you, Dr. Dr. Ocampo. Biggest achievements if we look back to 2014. What were the challenges in 2014? And in order to utilize the remaining part of this administration, where's the emphasis going to be? Just a few minutes.
Yes, I think it will be a few minutes because after listening to Dr. Habito, I can really just say, I agree. And that's the end of that. But the question before us is how do we achieve inclusive growth in the remaining life of this administration? I think that one of the shortcomings, administration after administration in this country, has been our lack of a sense of continuity. So I'm hoping that that sense of continuity somehow seeps in, and therefore one asks, what is there to continue? In 2014, we achieved impressive growth. At the same time, some people are looking at the Philippines as quote-unquote only game in town when you happen to be in this part of the world. So we have to build on that perception of the investing community outside in order to be able to continue the good stuff that has begun. Now, in order to do that, we have to focus on those items where it is kind of off-putting to investments, because I can go through a litany of what's wonderful about doing investments here. But let me start with my favorite one that needs to be done, I think, as rapidly as possible over the remaining life of the administration, and that would be infrastructure, or if some people want to talk about it, it's PPP. The administration started off on a good note, putting PPP at the center stage of what needs to be done. For a variety of reasons I can't go through now, it hasn't been as quick as possible. If I were an investor coming into the Philippines and I land at that airport, I might probably start to think twice. I cannot for the life of me understand why something like that, which to me is a no-brainer, and for which studies have been made like nobody's business, continues to go in circles. Put another runway, I don't get it. There have been studies that already indicate, among others, that there is an air facility out there in Clark. Use it. What's the problem? And then some people will say, well, because, you got to build a railway. And so, of course you have to build a railway. What do you think every other country in this region has done? They've put their airport out there, built a railway, and what happened? Everything between the airport and the city developed. This is not a question of cost. This is a question of investment and multiplier effect. But if you sit in your office diddling about the legal aspects of it and the cost considerations and so forth, it will not happen. So, after you get out of the airport, you find yourself in traffic that's going to crawl for 2 hours. Now, you could have gone to Hong Kong and back in that period of time. You think now, am I going to locate my headquarters facility here, where if I happen to live in Makati, it will still take me an hour to get to my office, which is also in Makati? So once again, you've got a problem here of infrastructure. Believe it or not, the first MRT that was... He's got a new job, sorry. Believe it or not, the first MRT ever established in the ASEAN is the one in the Philippines. But every other MRT all over the place is modern, improved, and larger hours appears to be going down the drain. So, again, you want to locate in Manila? I think if it's one thing that the government can crack the whip on, it's getting the traffic problem solved, and MRTs are not. Finally, since I'm short of time, 2 other things. The power situation, it is pretty off-putting to come in here and hear that you might be walking into brownouts again sometime during the summer. And of course, those that had been touched, but let me just quickly amplify by other speakers. The mining industry and agriculture. Again, mining industry is to me another no-brainer. Agriculture requires that the Land Reform Act be supplanted by something that is going to emphasize productivity and not just ownership. And final, both Ramon de Rosario and I have been on our a soapbox about this, and that is the amendment of economic provisions in the Constitution that make it restrictive for foreign investments to come into the country.
Thank you very much, Bobby. I would like to congratulate Yusek Manalo, $6 billion in foreign direct investment last year. I think we have moved pretty well in Arangkada, as we showed earlier. We looked at $7.5 billion for 10 years, so going to $75 billion in all. We are a little bit behind from that point of view. So what are we going to do in order to get more investment going, both local and foreign, and success stories and challenges? Just a little bit.
Thank you very much, Henry. And today I am so happy I'm not with the DOTC, but I am with the DTI, and neither am I with the DNR. So I think I'm in good company because I agree with everything that Bobby had said. Ladies and gentlemen, to our kababayans, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat, magandang hapon. and to our esteemed members of the Foreign Business Corps, if I might call it. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I will not speak or I will not comment on what has been said earlier. I had been observing the comments that have been given today, and I think everything points to a lot of optimism in the country in terms of investments and trade. I think your theme of Invest Now is very appropriate. I always comment when they ask me about what to do with TPP, what to happen with some of the trade treaties that are on the table with European FTAs. I always tell them that will happen, we will do that, but in the meantime, the time to invest is now. As a businessman, we all know that business is created by windows of opportunity and returns on investment. And if you combine the window of opportunity that the Philippines has, the volume and the business that can be generated in the Philippines, the amount of financing that is available in the Philippines, the window of opportunity for investments is here and now, albeit there are lots of issues and problems that need to be overcome. I think that a liberalized economy is what we are all after, and that is what the DTI, and even personally, I am very much espousing. We are all recipients of the lower cost of doing business. A comment on wage rates was very appropriate in the previous panel. The rich talent pool need not be repeated because that is an ongoing theme. And of course, with the passage of, especially this year, the European GSP Plus, market access has even been more enhanced for the Philippines in many sectors, which will create, we think it will create about 600 million euros of additional exports on the first year and over 200,000 jobs. So that is really good news for the country. Of course, our incentive schemes, albeit that there are some rumblings about what the new incentive schemes will be, is out there. But the point is, the current incentive schemes are working. And they are providing a lot of exports, incentives for people to invest here and invest from investors abroad, investors locally to invest. And of course, our national competitiveness has already been established with all those ratings. So the only thing that needs to be remained is where does the money come from? I think financing is quite liberal in many sense. The liberalization of the retail banking segment, RA 10554, I believe, has already been implemented with a few banks already applying. So everything, the stage is set for what is to be a very vibrant and very business-friendly environment for all to partake in. The question is, how do you take advantage of the window of opportunity? I was asked before coming here, what are the priorities for the coming year and a half? When I was listening to Professor Habito here, I said that that's a lot to do in 1.5 years, given all the issues that you've left. But let me try and echo some of the things that have been said in the panel. Moving forward, I think, I personally believe, and the DTI believes, that the following need to be done. One is increasing investments in infrastructure, in health, and in education. Without a well-trained and local staff, without a skills-developed local population, working force, you will not be able to sustain long-term economic growth that we are starting off right now. So I think education plays a very good role in the next future. Of course, infrastructure, increasing the infrastructure spending from 2.5% of GDP to 5%, personally, is not enough. We need more of that. Other countries have put in more infrastructure, and we need to get there. And finally, and health, of course. The second is enhancing the competition to level the playing field, and then simplifying regulations to promote job creation. I think we've put a step forward in terms of the negative list. I believe that my information is that on the middle of February, the NEDA had already approved the list, the liberalized list of incentives, the liberalized financial list of ownership and equity, along the specific lines of the advocacies which the DTI have been promoting to the industry in terms of natural resources, public utilities, education, mass media and advertising, and practice of profession. So I would, in the time remaining, I would welcome questions any questions you might have. And I pass it on over to, I think, Paul here, who is waiting for his turn. Thank you very much.
I'm very happy to see you here, Mr. Dominguez. I think all eyes are on Mindanao. I think we all know how important Mindanao is. And I think we have heard it many times today. We are all in favor of the peace process and maybe in standby also to invest. What's your situation?
Thank you. When I accepted this invitation from John Forbes, this was pre-January 25. So obviously much has changed. But let me give you some facts to better understand the context of Mindanao and the Bangsamoro. Mindanao is home to 28 million people. That is larger than many countries. It represents less than 20% of Philippine GDP, and it has 30% of the Philippine landmass, most of which is not subject to the severe weather that you get up north. Now, what is referred to Bangsamoro is really the homeland of indigenous people in South, Central, and Western Mindanao who are of the Muslim faith. Let me repeat that. This is the homeland of indigenous Mindanao people who are of the Muslim faith, and they represent 15 to 20% of the Mindanao population. Because of almost 40 years of conflict, of recurrent conflict, the areas of these, the homeland of this area, of these people, whom they are now referred to as the Bangsamoro, has really fallen behind in development. So now you really have two Mindanaos. You have parts of Mindanao that are progressing and growing quite fast, and areas that have been left behind. This effort at a final peace agreement with the MILF is not the first peace agreement that has been negotiated. We've had peace agreements since 1973 of different shapes and forms. But this particular agreement that is being under consideration will transfer very, very significant levels of political authority and increase resource allocation to a regional government that is highly autonomous in character. The recent Mama Sapano incident has shaken the confidence of many in the reliability of the principal peace partner. It has not shaken the confidence and our support for the peace process in general. And I think that the present efforts today, led by the government and all of that, to rebuild this confidence and trust with the peace partner is the right move. The only thing I would add is that it is most important to rebuild the confidence between the MILF leadership and the leadership of the Mindanao communities whom they live next door to. That is much more important than restoring the confidence with the national leadership, because in the end, it is these local communities living side by side that will have to execute and sustain this peace initiative. We have had relative peace in Mindanao over the last 4 or 5 years because a ceasefire has been in effect with the MILF, in the MILF areas. And there is, you may be very surprised, quite a bit of agricultural expansion taking place very, very close to the Mama Sapano area. There's a lot of palm oil being planted there. And within eyesight of Mama Sapano, Del Monte is developing a banana farm. This is because there is a huge demand developing for many of the products, agricultural products that Mindanao produces competitively. Never in world history have we seen almost 3 billion people, the populations of India, China, Indonesia, Brazil, move up in the economic ladder, and this has created or is creating great demand for products that we produce very effectively in Mindanao, bananas, cacao, etc. Just to run you some numbers. Japan, which is 100 million people, has been consuming 1 million tons of bananas every year since the 1970s. China's per capita consumption of bananas is only like 20% of Japan. Eventually, they're going to go to 10 kilos per person, which should require close to 500,000 hectares of bananas. Presently, we have 80,000 hectares. Most of the available land for this banana expansion is precisely in the autonomous region. And you can go down the list for cacao, etc. So peace is a very, very important element in that formula to move Mindanao forward, but it is not the only element. Infrastructure, of course, is important. And we have seen over the years a very serious level of underinvestment in infrastructure, partly because of security reasons, and partly because it has not been a national priority. It is so much easier to get approval for an overpass in Metro Manila than for a highway in Mindanao. And that's just the reality because of the centralized power and authority that is up here in the north. The Philippines is one of the few countries in the world where the cities and provinces do not own their airports and seaports, or do not administer them. This is all administered centrally, and something has to be done. Finally, I would like to make a short note on mining. We estimate there is approximately $12 to $15 billion in potential mining investments in Mindanao, because that is the area that is resource rich. Unfortunately, the policy environment to enable those investments has not been set in place. If that is set in place, your principal drivers for development in Mindanao will be both export agriculture, where we have proven very effective, and in a mining industry, where investors were already in place to take advantage of the previous super cycle, but unfortunately, we may have to wait for the next one to come around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you to our speakers, moderators, and panelists for such a very engaging discussion.
Thank you very much. I think the Senate President is waiting outside, so from their point of view, no open forum. You can text your questions somewhere else and let us know what these gentlemen can contribute in terms of where your questions are. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Where is he? We call the Korean.